11. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any comment from the public on these items for closed session? Anyone online?
Nobody
Okay.
online.
Then we'll dismiss to closed session. Okay, we have returned from closed session. County Council, anything to report from closed session?
Thank you, Chair. There are no reportable actions from closed session.
Okay. At this time, we're going to honor open and close in memory of. Is there anyone to put on that list? Well, I know we've already honored our veterans on Veterans Day, actually Memorial Day. We honored the fallen soldiers. Let's, in spite of the fact that it's not Veterans Day, I want to honor all of our veterans this morning. And something we should probably do on a daily basis because they've purchased with their own sacrifice our freedom. So we're grateful for their service and they continue to serve their community. You can't outgive veterans. That's one thing for sure. As a lifetime honorary member of the 9896 VFW, I look at those guys and I think, wow, you just cannot outgive these guys. They every day, day in, day out, they're thinking of how they can do something else for their country and their community. Really neat, great people. So we'll honor our veterans and we'll stand at this time. Pastor, name's right in front of me in my mind. No. Charles Rigby. Charles, I'm sorry, my mind just went blank. Charles Rigby and Valley West Christian, and glad to have you here. Morning, my good friend Charles.
Thank you.
Ask Mike this.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that. Board members, it's great to be here. I'd like to say happy belated Father's Day to all the fathers in the room and happy Juneteenth from the Madera Ministerial Association. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity and this day to come before you. And we pray for the remainder of this meeting, for the decisions and discussion that's going to be had in this room, for each board member, that they would seek your wisdom and seek your counsel, that we would be reminded of your word in Galatians chapter 5, verse 15, where you remind us that freedom means that we become completely free of self-indulgence, that we become servants of one another, expressing love in all that we do, and that each of these men and women remember that they have chosen to be public servants, to serve those that they represent, and that the decisions they make will be to the best of our county, that it would benefit from the granite tops of the mountains and all the way down here into the fertile lands of our agricultural places. And so, Jesus, we thank you for this opportunity. We pray a blessing over each of them. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag. One nation. It is. That's kind of scary. I was looking at that brochure this morning on Alzheimer's, and one of the things about memory loss and forgetting things, and boy, I'm hitting on 40% right now, so that's not good. It kind of worrisome. Anyway, I guess that's just human too. And thank goodness it also says there are age-related changes, so I'm definitely in that category. Thank you for bearing with me as I age and change. The next item would be public comment.
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take any action on items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record.
And we'll have our honorable sheriff up front here.
Morning, Chairman, members of the board. I just wanted to provide a brief update as far as what happened in Lavina this last weekend on Sunday. So about 4 a.m, we were dispatched to 2 separate homicide scenes that were committed by one man. He struck and killed a father on his birthday, on Father's Day, as well as the son, 2 different locations, and struck a 15-year-old. Our deputies did an amazing job. They arrived in about 11 minutes after they were dispatched, which is a good call for, or a good time for a rural area. And every available detective was dispatched out to the scene. They pretty much worked all day, all night. They worked tirelessly until they were able to track this person down and work with Homeland Security to take him into custody at the border. So I think this is a stark reminder of the importance of public safety, and I'm so grateful for your board's support in that endeavor. Obviously, you know the amount of personnel it takes to manage 2 major homicide scenes. So without your support, we couldn't be as effective as we are. So we're very grateful. We're very grateful to the Guardians of Madera County who went out and caught this person and brought him into custody. Amazing collaboration with our neighboring agencies, especially the District Attorney's Office. They were out there with us and loaned us personnel to help write warrants and other things to bring this to conclusion. So extremely grateful for your support, grateful for the DA's support. And at this point, now we'll turn this case over to this Attorney's Office for their part of it.
Thanks for being there for us, Sheriff and deputies, and our hearts go out to the families for their loss.
It is, Lavina has really been traumatized lately by crime, and I know later on the agenda, there's some discussion about assisting with public safety issues in Lavina. And we were very glad to assist. It's an honor and a privilege to work with Sheriff Tyson and all of his staff who are so well-trained. We've received the case and we're in the process of getting it filed. We anticipate this defendant will be arraigned. And as always, you know, the purpose of our office is to make sure that our community is as safe as possible. And it's our intention to be ready at every hearing to proceed on this case and to bring justice to these people from Lavina. So, and again, the criminal justice apparatus here in Madera County works amazingly well. And we thank you for your support in facilitating.
Thank you for our fine DA and our deputy DAs. We appreciate you very much.
Good morning. Jose Pantoja with probation. Good job to the Sheriff's Department and the District Attorney's Office for handling that very important matter. I'm just here today to share an event that the Probation Department will be hosting in collaboration with the Food Bank. On June the 29th, our Probation Department will be giving away 25 food boxes to our probation families in need. We try to do this a couple of times throughout the year, just really a way for us to give back to the community. And as always, the board is invited to attend these events. I will be sure to give this information along to you guys as Chief of Staff. This will be at the new Probation Adult Services Division, which is on 300 South G Street. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you very much for what you do. We appreciate it.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is Chris Edstrom. I'm a resident of Madera and I care for my 38-year-old son who is autistic. I'm here today to continue our conversation about caregiving and particularly caregiving within the in-home supportive services program. Recently, I've had the opportunity to collaborate with other caregivers from all over the state of California. And while there are a variety of different considerations and specific concerns relating to this profession, the one thing that really stood out to me in particular was that this is a profession. We don't wear uniforms, we don't have cars, we don't have buildings to work in, we don't have places to congregate, but we are a profession. You see, caring for another human being is an extremely serious undertaking and should not be treated as a throwaway consideration. It requires an intense focus and sincere concern for another human being. It further requires a commitment to continually cultivate the skills necessary to meet an individual's needs, whatever and whenever they might be needed. Now, I have to assume that caring for our most vulnerable citizens here in Madera is a high priority for our community, and that we as a community have an obligation to support that commitment with an appropriate level of resources. Those resources should reflect the deep concern we as Maderans have for those who, for whatever reason, are no longer capable of living their lives to their fullest potential without assistance. And I'd like to finish by saying, if we truly want the most precious members of our community to thrive, we must ensure that those who provide the care are also able to thrive and fully participate in our society. And we have some more folks here, some new people that would like to introduce themselves to you as caregivers here in Madera. Again, thank you so much for allowing us.
Morning, Supervisor. My name is David Rodriguez, and I am a IHSS healthcare provider for Madera County. It's been over a year and a half, and I take care of my wife and help her in any way I can. My wife is with me longer because of the love and care that I can provide for her in our home. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Antonio Mendez, and I'm here because I'm a caregiver for my mom. She's been dealing with depression for years. My sister used to take care of her. I took over about 2 years ago just because it was too much for her. Because my sister, I guess I was the head of the household, and she wants to be protected instead of protecting. So I had to take over. And it's hard. People that do this is not easy. That's all I got. I mean, I don't have nothing else to add. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Andrea Saldati, Deputy Director of Public Works. Just wanted to make you guys aware of a little note that we have put on all of the water and sewer bills throughout the district. We will be instituting late fees again come January of 2024. We put a note on the June bill. We're giving everybody a 6-month window to prepare. But that note will be permanently put on the bottom of everybody's bill from now until January. So once January is not paid, there will be a 10% late fee that is put on that bill come February. So if anybody has any questions, please direct them to Public Works.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Anyone online? Okay, we'll close public comment and bring it back. What?
Nobody online, I'm sorry.
Thank you. We'll close public comment, bring it back to the board, and go to consent calendar. Any items that anyone have any questions on?
Chairman, I would like to address 5A.
Yeah, go ahead.
There are 20 sets of minutes we're asking for approval on. It was a transition to the new legislative management software. We had some complications. They've since been resolved. So in order to keep them all in sequence, we have brought them all today for your approval.
Yeah, thank you. Any other items? Question for me? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to pull items E, P, and S for discussion, please.
Okay, like to pull those for discussion. What were the numbers again? Letters?
E, P, and S.
E.T.
E, P, Edward,
P
Paul,
as in
Sam.
Paul. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I just want to congratulate Diana Palmer on her appointment to the Planning Commission. I think she's going to be a wonderful asset to the commission.
You bet. Very pleased to have her here this morning, and she served the community as mayor and council member and now planning commissioner for the county. So that's awesome, awesome thing. Thank you for standing up and being recognized and taking this position.
That is if we vote her in.
Oh.
It still hasn't happened yet.
A lot can happen in the next few minutes.
Any other items for discussion? Go ahead, Bobby.
Chair, I had some questions on item F.
Item F, as in Frank?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's see, we'll take these kind of, oh, you're the only one with questions. We're going to pull the other ones for separate discussion. We want to do that after we vote on the balance, or are you wanting to separate vote or just discussion?
Just for discussion. yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. So let's take E first then. That'd be the, go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jessica Leon, County Administration. So E, we worked very closely with the auditor's office to put this item together. It is specifically for payroll taxes. As you are aware, there was a transition from our old payroll system to the new NeoGov system. So there was some confusion there. Auditor's office did confirm that these payroll taxes were paid. However, we must first make a payment before we can receive any sort of reimbursement from, I believe EDD. So their auditor's office will make every attempt to have the waves, the penalties waived. However, like I said, we must first make that payment.
Chairman, if I may,
Yes, go ahead.
because the only reason I ask, because it says that there are fees, so late fees associated with this, but you're saying that they were paid? Or-
We'll defer that question to auditor's office. I think they're here. They have all the
This is the
details.
late fee.
So this is, so
Yeah.
I just wanted to make it public that we are paying the late fee in anticipation and hopes that we get reimbursed for the late fee. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that that was known.
Sorry, good morning. I'm Vanessa Hernandez. I'm the Chief Accountant Auditor over payroll in the Auditor Controller's Office. So what we are paying are late fees for late filing by our third-party vendor from NeoGov. So then as part of our transition to NeoGov, we also contracted a third-party vendor who was going to be processing our payroll taxes and doing our reporting. So the taxes were paid, but the filing and the reporting was late, or they actually did it. However, they weren't fully processed by EDD. So now we're dealing with that piece, and that's what these payments are for.
Gotcha. Just to be clear, so we set aside money for NeoGov for them to make the on-time filings. They never did. So now we're stuck with having to pay this late fee in anticipation in hopes of getting that reimbursed at a later time.
Correct.
But they make you pay it first, correct?
Right, so we
Okay.
have to make the payment to request a refund.
Okay. So which is a backwards thing that they require, but I guess cross our fingers. Is that what we're hoping for?
Well, we have very good reasons for why, the county should be waived of these penalties, so I'm hoping that they do.
I got you. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Sounds to
ju-
me like NeoGov has some culpability in that and should be reimbursing the county if there's any cost.
Well, that's something we will deal with should EDD reject our request to be reimbursed. And the audit controller staff has already switched to a different third-party vendor for submission of our taxes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, item F.
Not
Oh.
that item F.
You had item
If that
F.
works. Yeah, and I want to thank the contractors for being here today and Darren, thank you. Really, the questions aren't so much in regards to the contract. I'm just, with the public defender's office, it's obviously very important that, you guys have the resources that you need to be successful. And I understand that over years past, you guys have been very good in working with the county through, fiscal issues. And I just want to know that in this newest iteration of the contract, are you guys going to have the support you need to hire on staff? I know there's been complications with bringing on qualified public defenders and those sorts of things. And can you guys speak to that at all, or?
No, I think this contract is a good contract. It is sound. We build in the increase from year to year to cover cost of living and any other type of increase we have to do. So we should be fine. We don't see any need over the next 3 years to increase the number of attorneys that are covered in the contract. Right now, we, like a lot of places, have had problem recruiting attorneys to fill vacancies, but right now we're getting the job done. The offices are working very hard, getting the job done and the resources.
And I guess that's where my question lies is the contract sufficient for you to attract qualified candidates, to efficiently run the public defender's office?
It's our salaries are still competitive with the valley, with other counties in the valley for the most part. The problem we're seeing is the coastal counties. I know Sacramento just jumped theirs high. It's competing with those counties, and from what we understand, they're poaching from the public agency, DA's offices, public defender's office in the valley. And I don't really know how that can be addressed. Certainly, more money, but I just don't know if this county or any of the other valley counties can really afford what they're charging, what they're paying over there now. So that's an issue that we all have to deal with. What we really need is more attorneys passing the bar exam. And that's another problem where the passage rate in the bar exam is very low. So there's not as many candidates out there even applying for jobs. And so a lot of issues. Another thing, a lot of attorneys are looking for jobs they can do from home. Can't do our job from home. So it's a lot of things we're tackling, dealing with that. But money wise, I think we have the finance.
Okay. Well, thanks again for being here, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Item P.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Andrea Saldati, Deputy Director of Public Works. This is a budget adjustment to move what we had budgeted in an opt trans out to our professional and specialized services in the Public Works Department. The cost of the winter storms was immense throughout all of our funds. And the opt trans out that was originally budgeted is now it's essentially nullified because this was to move franchise fees that were collected within Public Works to solid waste. We had originally budgeted for 275,000. We took a previous board item for 500,000. And so this 275,000 is essentially just budget sitting there that will not be used. And so we're asking to move that into professional and specialized.
Chairman, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
So the 500,000, that was already transferred out, correct? So this is part of that of that franchise fee that was not utilized, correct?
The 500,000 that was already transferred has no impact on this. This has no impact on the 500,000. Originally budgeted, that 500,000 was originally budgeted for 275. Since we took the 500,000, this is just essentially empty budget that is sitting in our fund. It has no impact on cash.
But did this come from franchise fees?
Yes, this 275 was originally the dollar amount to be transferred for franchise fees out of Public Works and to solid waste. Previously, I believe it was a week or two ago, we did the $500,000 transfer.
I got you. And the only reason I bring this up is, to publicly share this, that, of where those franchise fees are going, because it is a sensitive topic, and, making sure that, that those fees are appropriately going where they should be going. So thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Item S.
Morning, Chairman. This item is to repurpose a aged out vehicle and utilize it in other purposes through mechanism of pistorescue ambulance.
Go ahead.
Yes, Sheriff, the only reason I bring this up because a private operator having use of a county vehicle, can we just sell it or give it or something like that instead of, and county council, is there some sort of subrogation of liability that the county owns a vehicle, yet a private operator is driving it? Wouldn't it just be cleaner? It doesn't seem like it's worth all that much money. Can we just sell it or give it?
So in part of the reason why we've done it this way, and we've done it this way also for Sierra Ambulance, is it allows us to maintain semblance of control over the vehicle. So if we do need that vehicle back, we can. It also gives us some sort of a say over what that vehicle is used for. So part of the reason behind doing this is any sort of SWAT operation or major critical incident, the ambulance companies, whether it be Sierra or Pistorescue, are always there. So that's pretty much a constant in any of our scenes. So we can put certain command equipment like we have like in Sierra's radio system, portable radio systems, and we're working off the tailgates or out these remote scenes, that equipment comes with it. And as long as we have ownership or control of that vehicle, allows us to kind of enforce some of those.
Gotcha. And county council, can you speak to potential liability or any subrogation of
Yes.
claims that may arise?
Sure. The agreement includes obligations of Pistorescue that does require them to register the vehicle in their name rather than in the county's name. It also requires insurance and indemnification so that the ambulance company would defend and indemnify the county if an issue arises with regard to that vehicle.
But from a lawsuit standpoint, it seems from a lawsuit standpoint that the county would still be named in
The county may be named, but the expense of defending the lawsuit and paying out a judgment from a potential lawsuit is shifted to the ambulance company by way of the agreement. So the liability is shifted by way of this agreement.
Okay, so the county is not at risk at all if someone were to crash this vehicle or something.
Well, again, the county could be named in a lawsuit and would have to go through that process. There are protections in place in this agreement designed to protect the county and avoid those risks.
Madam Council, am I correct that this is similar to essentially how any end user leases a vehicle or purchases a vehicle? They're still an owner of the vehicle, but the registered owner is ultimately the one that's responsible.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, and the only reason I bring it up is just because I didn't know of any other area, and I'm sure there might be areas where the county is allowing private operators to register vehicles. I'm not sure, but I was just thinking from a liability standpoint of private operator driving a county vehicle.
Yeah, if you think about it, like much how we lease vehicles from Enterprise, they're still listed as the legal owner, but we're obviously the registered owner as the county. Anything that happens to that vehicle, we would be responsible for, not Enterprise. It's the
Okay.
same type of situation.
I think that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any comment from the public on the consent calendar? Anyone online?
Nobody online.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure?
I'll move to approve as presented.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Well, that was a tie. I'll give that one to Rob. Jordan's beat him before, but I'll give that one to Rob. Let's go ahead and vote.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras.
Yes.
Supervisor Walma.
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley.
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes,
Vote passes 5-0.
thank you. Item 6A.
Item 6A, Board of Supervisors Department, presentation of a proclamation recognizing the Madera High School Girls Division II Champion Softball Team.
Thank you. And we certainly want to recognize Madera High School Girls Division II Championship Softball Team. Unfortunately, they can't be here today because they are practicing because not only do they want to be champions next year, they want to repeat, but they want to move on in the state playoffs. So we will take that up again at a future meeting when they can be here, but congratulations and great job.
Excellent. We get a lot of good athletes around here that do incredible things. Always takes a lot of work. It's not only a decision, it's an effort. So that's for sure. 6B.
6B, Board of Supervisors Department, presentation of a proclamation recognizing Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month and the longest day.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Clerk of the Board. I have the honor of presenting a proclamation regarding Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month and the longest day. You know, I was talking to some of one of my colleagues prior in regards to the title Brain Awareness Month, and I'm almost thinking that it should be Brain Disease Awareness Month because it's something that definitely qualifies under that when you hear the word Alzheimer's. It's something that strikes fear, not only in the heart, but in the gut when you hear that there's a loved one that has been afflicted with Alzheimer's or even other types of brain diseases. The summer solstice is tomorrow, June 21st, and it's been declared as the longest day. This is when people from around the world come together to honor strength, passion, endurance of people facing Alzheimer's. We have some information just in regards to Alzheimer's patients here in Madera County. In 2019, we had a little over 2,700 people afflicted with Alzheimer's, people 55 years and plus. In 2 years, that number is expected to go to little over 3,400. We have in California, 1 in 6 baby boomers will develop Alzheimer's. That is a very, I think, sobering statistic. And it's probably a lot to do with the fact that we're living longer. When people live to be in their 50s and 60s, then, they really didn't get, or the symptoms of Alzheimer's or dementia did not emerge. But when people living in their 70s, 80s, 90s, it certainly is emerging. And we're looking at 1.7 million California baby boomers are expected to develop a form of dementia, 1.4 million of those developing Alzheimer's. So with that, I'd like to introduce Susana Rodriguez. She is the executive director of the Alzheimer's Association, and she has a number of colleagues, I think, that has some information that they would love to share as well.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
What a great opportunity to bring awareness, not only on this day of this proclamation. Good morning, Chairman and members of the board, to be able to bring this to our communities who have been impacted and continue to, at times, live this disease alone, and looking at the resources that are in need of, as there's not just an aging disease, but we understand that there is more of what you've just stated. Baby boomers, we're going to see a larger amount here, percentage of those impacted in our communities, and how to prepare our communities not only for care, but also awareness and help during the journey of caregiving. We do understand that the Alzheimer's Association is also serves all other dementias, which also want to bring to light that the other dementias can include vascular dementia, Huntington disease, Lewy body, Parkinson's, which may have someone much younger than 65 and older, 62 and older. So we hope that today, in bringing this awareness, we are recognizing those families that have felt alone during, not only during the pandemic, but at times feel alone in their caregiving journey, that we as a community are raising a voice to say that you're not alone, that we care, that we provide the services, education, support groups, and in-home care to help them during their journey. Also for that individual to understand how to better advocate for themselves. There is new treatment. We're in the new treatment era, to make sure that they're aware that they have access to new treatment available here in Madera County and for our constituents. As today, not only in bringing light and awareness, we have wonderful partnerships with the Promotora Health Network with Calviva here in Madera County, as well as our community representatives with the Alzheimer's Association, bringing in information, understanding what the disease is, understanding that this is not a normal part of aging, and if there are symptoms, how to advocate, how to seek treatment and plan. Here, I've had an opportunity for over the 20 years to assist families in throughout the Central Valley, from Kern County all the way to Stanislaus County, and letting families know that there's support and help. And also the other part that I do want to address is the care for the family caregiver, the burnout that we often see as the disease progresses. There is so many stressors for families today, and for that is myself, even as a caregiver for my mother. I understand the burden and the losses that you experience. I had a family member here in Madera diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and died during the pandemic. It was devastating to not see her during the time of the pandemic in the hospital, and to be able to provide the care that she needed. And here, not only as a regional director and an opportunity to serve for so many years, it's a personal commitment and dedication that I am honored to help families and bring awareness to. I'd like to have, if we may, just a couple moments here with our promotoras and them share also the wonderful work that we have here in Madera County. I'll have Adela.
Thank you, Susana, and good morning. Well, I'm just like Susana. My dad had Alzheimer's and Parkinson and so many other diseases. That's probably what got me to be the coordinator of the promotoras of Calvio Health and just, bring awareness to the community. Just do all these classes for our community so they can know. And I want to thank Susana that because it's now we have this in Spanish. Before it wasn't in Spanish, and now we have it in Spanish. So all these classes, all these awareness, we have 4 curriculums that we're doing for the community for free. So they can know and how to see the signs. Just like you said right now, is this a sign? We can see if it's a sign or not, if it's Alzheimer's. And, just to go get the cure and how to address this to your doctors. Sometimes you don't know what it is. Is this common, that I'm forgetting this? Or what do we have to be looking for? So I want to introduce my promotoras right here so they can say their name because they're the ones that are right there speaking to the community, giving their classes and advocating for these persons if they don't know what to do or where to go to. So.
Good morning, my name is Erica Gómez y yo soy promotora de Calviva en colaboración con Alzheimer. Buenos días, mi nombre es Blanca Villalpando. Soy promotora de Calviva Health en colaboración con la Asociación de Alzheimer. Gracias. Good morning, my name is Norma Mendoza and I'm promotor of Calviva Health in collaboration with the Alzheimer's Association.
And thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I hope we can do something else, for all these people right here in the community. And I really want to thank my promotoras. Not all of them are here today, but we're a big group. Letty knows us already. And that we're extending all these awareness of Alzheimer's and all these other diseases right here for the community.
Thank you. We appreciate all of your work and the lives, both for those that are diagnosed with Alzheimer's or other dementia or their family members as well. I do want to just in closing share some of the resources that are available to our constituents. We shared the education programs that talk about not only the disease, but also help as the disease progresses, many times understanding the best approach when someone says for the 100th time, when are we going to eat? 2 o'clock in the morning. I need to go to work. And what do? We have a 24-hour helpline that is available for our families that can call not only for resources, information, help with care consultations, but also can apply for short-term respite to relieve the family caregiver. We do have services to provide in the home. Another part of that example that I gave for someone that may elope, and here we now have a situation in the community that they're lost and family member is in despair. We do have the Safe Return medical bracelet. That is a service that we provide through the Alzheimer's Association. So if a family member needs an identification, especially for someone that has some cognitive impairment due to Alzheimer's or other dementias, we do provide that service as well. We are looking to start our support groups in person in Madera County. I know there's been definitely some transitions. We continue to offer over the phone or through internet, through Zoom, but we definitely look forward to expanding not only the education classes, but the support groups as well. We'd like to thank you for this opportunity to say to those here that we're here as a community, thanking the community of what you all do every day to advocate, to support, and the impact that you do here as our Board of Supervisors. Thank you. Lastly, we'd like to invite you to one special day that we have not only in the longest day, making this day aware that for many it feels more than 24 hours when you haven't slept, when your family member is at distress, for family caregivers, but also an opportunity to join us October 21st to raise awareness for and funds for Alzheimer's care support and research through our Alzheimer's Walk to End Alzheimer's on October 21st. This year, we will have at the Woodwood Park in Fresno. We hope in the future that we can have our own standalone walk in Madera. Why not? Why not? There is a need in Madera County. We would love to see that. But at this time, we do combine our both counties of Fresno and Madera for October 21st. Thank you. We are grateful for what you do every day. The Alzheimer's Association. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susanna, and your team, and for the presentation. And if there's no other comments, what we'd like to do is present a proclamation. And so if you would gather here in the front.
Great organization, and I was just commenting to them on their brochure how clear the information is. They have one that gives you the 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's, and of course, along with those diagnoses, the normal reaction as you age. And I thought that was pretty good, because a lot of people worry about getting those kind of things. It would be a worrisome thing to suddenly, if you've always had a clear mind, a quick mind, suddenly you forget things, you misplace things. That's normal in the course of aging, but there are definite signs that are indicated by these brochures, and that's pretty good. Good information to have. People need to be aware of what's going on in their life and their biology. It's important. We're going to go to our public hearings, item 7A.
Board of Equalization, hearing of objections to assessment of lands by assessor of the Chowchilla Water District and adoption of a resolution for fiscal year 2023-2024.
This is, I don't see anybody coming forward on this. This is a yearly item. And their assessment, I believe, is per acre, and I can't remember the exact amount. I think it's $115, I believe. But anyway, it's in the backup information. And I'm going to open the public hearing on this item. Anyone to speak on this item? Anyone online? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing, bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Motion made,
Second.
motion made and second. Let's vote.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Chairman Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Item 7B,
7B, Community and Economic Development Department, Planning Division, hearing to accept and approve the closeout report on the 17-CDBG-12021 owner occupied rehab program.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jamie Bax with Community and Economic Development. This is a standard process for the CDBG program and a requirement of the Housing and Community and Development Department from the state to close out this particular grant. It was a rehab grant and we're available for any questions. We were able to help 3 homeowners, and self-help enterprises helped administer this program. And again, we're available for any questions you might have.
okay, any questions? Any public comment on this item? Seeing anyone online?
None online.
Okay, bring it back to the board. We're going to close the public hearing. And what's your pleasure?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Let's vote.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Chairman Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. 6C,
6C, County Administration Department, update on the progress of the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA projects and outreach efforts, and provide direction to staff.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Joel Begay, County Administrative Office. We have a brief PowerPoint. I don't want to wait to load up.
Joel, while we're loading up, do you know how many times you've come to the board with a presentation on ARPA funding? I mean, just approximately.
So we did the first big one, January 25 and 22, and since then we've had 3 separate instances. We haven't had an overall update, but just individual projects.
Or
think
anytime there's been a change in
Right,
board
correct.
direction, the staff has been here and
On top of my head, we can probably pull the exact dates. On top of my head, 4 in total.
yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think you guys have done a great job in letting everybody know where these monies are going and how they're planned on being spent. Appreciate it.
There we go. I restart. All right, so we have the PowerPoint up. Thank you. Apologize, Mr. Chairman. Just a a brief overview. The county received from the American Rescue Plan Act $30.5 million as a county allocation. The intended uses of ARPA is pretty broad, but specifically is to replace lost revenue, strengthening support for vital public services, and most importantly, retain essential services workforce during the early times of COVID. It also meant to support immediate economic stabilization of households and businesses, including nonprofits, support urgent response efforts to bring the pandemic under control, and then support the recovery efforts in highly impacted areas. On January 25, 2022, staff went to your board to approve 14 individual projects for ARPA, which we'll go over briefly in the next slides. So we before we get to the list of our current ARPA projects, we kind of want to highlight just a few things. One of the biggest programs we've had is the assistance for small businesses. So the county had a CARES Act funded program that was for a very, very brief period. We had a month and a half opening. There was a lot of demand for it. After that closed in November, in mid to late 2021, we took our time establishing the ARPA funded small business program. We revised the parameters, went to your board, expanded it to nonprofits, kept an open application period, but kept pretty much a lot of the same parameters as the CARES Act funded program. So this program started November 1st. Since then, there's been 105 grants awarded as of the end of May, and a total of 535,000 issued to small businesses. The second major program that was funded by ARPA, the assistance to low-income families. So this program began February 1st, 2022. This was one of the first programs that were started after the board adopted the ARPA plan. Since then, there's been 267 families assisted as of the end of May, and it's just over $1 million in direct assistance. There are two contractors, the county enlisted, CAPMC and the Madera Coalition for Community Justice. I believe, and staff can correct me, it was split between districts. That way there's no, but there's always coordination between the two to make sure that for those instances where, the district boundaries may have changed during the time, and to make sure that we're not, assisting the same family twice in different programs. But at the same time too, is there's no confusion on who do they need to apply from. Another major program that was funded with ARPA was the senior home delivered meals. So when the pandemic started, there's been a big need for home delivered meals for seniors since we had to close our congregate sites. This program has really been a blessing for the community that we're able to fund these home delivered meals and work with a contractor from FMAAA, which is, I believe it's Fresno County EOC, to make sure those meals got to those who need them. Another big project that was started was the $5 million that the board allocated for the 5 severely disadvantaged communities. So there was a lot of activity since January 2022. We did community outreach events, took surveys in both online, in person, and basically distilled, what's the most pressing need for the community. And consistently for those 5 communities, it was broadband access. So major development from this allocation of funds was the approval of the cal.net contract for $1.5 million. And as you'll see in the final slide, there's a recommendation to allocate an additional $300,000 from that same program to basically operationalize that and provide some startup subsidies for folks. While the infrastructure is being taken care of and over-the-air internet is being provided to these areas, there's still an equipment cost associated with it. So there are some recommendations to at least bridge that initial gap, because once you have that equipment, you don't need to replace it for a long time. And for those that are severely low income, it would be a big help. we apologize in advance on the low font, the small font on this, but we kind of wanted to just highlight everything that's been done out of ARPA to this point. We mentioned that in January, the board approved 14 distinct programs. If you count the number of lines here, there's 22 lines, and the reason for that is, and again, I apologize for not having presented it maybe in a better way, but for example, in a single program, we have to distill it in three different lines depending on treasury reporting. For example, in the small business, there's 2 lines for that because we have to report separately between helping small businesses and helping nonprofits. And it's not necessarily legal, but the first line is the activity for the small business category, and the second line is the activity for the nonprofits that's qualified. So if you look at the initial allocation for both for this program, it was 2.5 million. What we're expecting to spend through the end of June is just over 500,000 between the two. Majority is in small businesses, right? There's not a lot of uptake and on the nonprofit side. So there's a significant underspending there. There's a lot more deployment of the funds in the low-income families. We sort of expected that. A lot of this was a combination of keeping folks at home. If they needed to be, if they needed a little bit of assistance so that they don't lose their apartment, they don't lose their just to prevent more folks. We already have an unhoused issue, just to keep families at home. If there was a sustainable plan moving forward, like they have a means to keep it once the assistance is provided. The other, I'm not going to go over individually, but on a broader sense, there's been assistance to help fund the COVID-19 jail operations, the isolation cells, which in the earlier parts and through the mid parts of the pandemic, when our funding sources have been really being impacted, that helped a lot. It helped keep us operating the jail, keep both our clients and staff safe, and at the same time, help bridge the gap so that until our revenues recovered. Earlier this fiscal year, there's also, we're faced with the issue of the closing hospital. So your board had directed, not necessarily to redirect unspent funds, but we came with a rough projection of what we think is still going to be unspent and is available to be earmarked for a rescue package for the hospital should a viable reopening plan be determined. So what we're trying to do here, what we're trying to attempt to do here is to identify what we project the balance of ARPA would be. So the third column, we project that the balance across all projects would be $10.8 million. And then the fourth column is what we project to redirect from the pots that have significant underspending, and we project that they will maintain to be significant underspending from the initial allocation, and then redirect those funds to a new project or to the existing project that's called Investment in Madera County Hospitals, so that we can pull together the $6 or $7 million that your board initially earmarked in January. I kind of want to highlight like a few things. We are seeking some direction to your board, and then once your board directs, so we'll come back with the necessary actions for it. But I kind of want to highlight a couple of specific actions or direction that staff is asking your board to do. One is to set an end date for the small business and nonprofit assistance. We believe that the reasonable end date would be the first week of July 7th. The uptake on this program has significantly slowed down, partly because there are rules in place that you can't, once you've received assistance, right? You can't receive assistance. We feel in consultation with the EDC that we're kind of reaching that maturity in here. And the reason why we will recommend setting an end date is that if we were to put together a $6 million rescue package for the hospital, we need to set some end dates on some of these programs. Otherwise, we potentially would not have that balance that that your board wanted to earmark. A significant one here too is to redirect 3.2 million from the allocation for the severely disadvantaged communities. So out of the $5 million, 1.5 million has been obligated for the CalNet net contract. Staff's recommending obligating another 300,000 for startup assistance for low-income folks. But outside of that, in order to come up with the necessary funds for a rescue package for Madera Community Hospital, this is the most significant pot where most of those funds would have to come from. So we are seeking specific direction to return to your board with the necessary actions to execute those, because we will need to amend contracts. And so we're kind of like doing a presentation, but seeking general direction. That way we know this is where, generally where your board is. So that way, when we do bring the contracts, so that way we can develop the necessary amendments to the contracts to execute. But we feel that we're at a point that we need to not just earmark the funds for the hospital, because the county is incurring costs for consultants to help with the turnaround plan. So we believe that we need to take the next step to concretely reallocate to that pot, because we do have real expenditures that's related to the reopening efforts of the hospital.
I think there's a lot of things that could be looked at home on our own personal budget or our budget as far as the county looking forward. So, and there's, constraints on that. So I think there's more work that needs to be done than can be done sitting at the dais here and talking about it. I think that it would be expedient for us to appoint 2 supervisors to a committee consisting of yourself, the CAO, and 2 supervisors, and then move forward with some discussions on the constraints, where the funds could be used, thinking out a little bit out of the box, maybe a little bit, because we do have some needs that could offset some very important general fund expenditures that we need to make. We need to bring our law enforcement back to where it could be, in my opinion. And I think a committee could help do that. Go ahead.
Thanks, Joel and Jay. I'm sorry, I didn't ask you this in advance, but at one of the updates, I think we had mentioned that the Madera Rescue Mission, no, I'm sorry, the Madera Food Bank was doing a relocation project, and we were going to look at if ARPA fit into that project and if there was some assistance that we could provide. Did we ever check? I think there was a consensus amongst the board. We can go back, but I was just curious if it fit within the parameters. I know you guys were going to check.
Right, and I apologize. If we'll have to get back to the board on that, and I apologize. Should have been prepared to answer that question, but
I should have asked in advance, but if we could look into that, that would be, because it's a huge, they serve the entire county and it was a big undertaking. I think they were looking for 500,000, I think it was. I can't remember.
And a supervisor, if the wills of the board is to do that committee, that's perhaps one of the agenda items for this forthcoming committee.
Okay, thank you.
And Joel, thank you so much for bringing this. It provides a very clear estimation as far as where we are. So I do appreciate that. Going back to your point, as far as having maturity dates, I think we can probably do those outside of any potential committee, like the small business, so I personally would be okay with whatever short-term maturities you guys have for any of these programs. I would feel comfortable moving forward with those. I would like to see a committee for a possible reallocation of future funds. I think that's a great idea. And it would be nice. I know it'd probably be a little more work seeing the progression of like some of these applications, because I'm sure earlier on in the pandemic that these, the application numbers were pretty high. And I would venture to say that probably in the last 6 months that there could be some of these programs, 0 applicants, right? So there might be more than just the small business.
Right, I think we're talking more handful as opposed to the initial uptake, but you're right, Supervisor. Yeah, we do have that data. We don't have it presented in a way that we can pull it up right now, but anecdotally, that has been the case the last 6 months.
Right. So what were all the programs that you wanted to have a maturity date on? It was the
Yep.
small business loan.
Yes,
program.
Supervisor, that was, we appreciate your suggestion, and that is really the most critical, is the maturity dates on the small business and nonprofit assistance. If we can move forward with setting an end date of applications through July 7th, it would set certainty into the balance. That's the problem. I mean, not that we think there's going to be 50 folks applying and qualifying between now and July 7th, but it does kind of like set an end date. So we do recommend, in addition to forming the committee for the reallocation purposes, is to, if the board's willing, just direct staff to set the end dates for those programs on 7th of July.
Are there any other programs that you feel are eligible for that you're not getting many applicants on right now? I mean, that's just, if they're not getting applicants, that's a pretty good indicator.
Supervisor, it's only those two programs because the assistance for low-income families, why I feel like we do need to look at as part of the committee, that still has a pretty high uptake right now. So I wouldn't necessarily set an end date for those.
Okay.
It's really the assistance for small business and nonprofits that's really, I think
Tapered off.
the need is escaping us now because we're
Okay.
so far out of the pandemic.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would like
Go
to
ahead.
see a presentation or some type of update from CAPMC and Madera Coalition on who has been, not who, but how they're assisting.
The numbers.
That'd be beneficial, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Probably helpful. Rob?
Yeah,
Thank,
Rob or Bob, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go, Rob.
okay.
Yeah.
Just a question. This is more in regards to the ARPA program from a bigger picture standpoint. What kind of expiration dates are there for the expenditure of ARPA funds and so forth?
Yes, Supervisor. The obligation date needs, funds need to be obligated December 2024 with funds fully expended by December 2026.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bobby?
Rob. That was
Yeah.
one of the questions I had as well.
Yeah, good question.
As far as eligibility goes, for the small business, I think you mentioned that if they've already received assistance, then they would not be eligible for another round of funding. That does include the CARES Act. So if I got a small business grant through CARES, I cannot get one through ARPA. Is that correct? Or
And, it's not 100%. There, in general, it is. And it's not just the CARES Act, but if there were other funds, let's say, I think there were certain loans that were out early in the pandemic that were forgiven. But there were exceptions to that, right? Because the ARPA program also allows for either expansion or establishing expanding the business because it's about growth. So I don't know, Jessica, if you wanted to add, but
I just wanted to clarify, as Joel explained, ARPA did open it up a little bit more. So just because they received CARES did not necessarily mean that they did not qualify for ARPA. So those that did qualify for CARES could have qualified for ARPA as well, because it was a much broader eligibility. So if they were wanting to expand, for outdoor seating, things like that, they were eligible. They just needed to have that demonstration of financial impact.
okay. And I think that had been something that admittedly had been lost on me. My understanding was that if you had done CARES, you could not have done ARPA.
It was
So
my assumption as well.
yeah, and so I don't know if perhaps there's an audience of businesses out there that maybe don't understand that as well. So if it's okay with the rest of the board, I would like to extend it maybe a little bit beyond the recommendation of July 1st. I certainly wouldn't want to hold up anything, with the hospital, but maybe giving just a little extra time to businesses that maybe perhaps were unaware of that piece of information might be helpful.
yeah, and I think if your board wants to extend the 7, that's, certainly we can work with any date your board recommends. I do think our confidence level that, there's been extensive outreach on it from EDC.
Right.
The one pagers did highlight those facts, and I know they've had conversations individually with businesses asking for clarification on that. So,
Okay.
And I think the key on you can't receive it for the same issue you stated twice. Like if you had a loss between these two periods, you can't receive another grant for the same period of loss.
right? But if
You got to get extra creative if you want the ARPA fund.
right. Would have to be for a different,
Okay.
Gotta-
Chair, two other questions, if I
Yeah,
may,
go
real
ahead.
quick. One is in regards to the funding that's set aside for the homeless outreach unit. Do we know, is the sheriff planning on using those funds over the next year, 2 years, or any clarification there?
yes, Supervisor. So that funding, the sheriff's office hired 2 deputies in the civil unit to address the homelessness issue as homeless outreach workshop, and I see the sheriff coming in. So it's really to fund those 2 deputies over a period of 2 years.
Okay, perfect. And then the last question I have is in regards to the board's direction to set aside some funds, I think for some sort of study up in the mountain communities. I didn't see how that was outlined in the spreadsheet, so I just wanted to double check.
Correct, Supervisor. So because we haven't created a separate project for that yet, so all of those are lumped into the 5.9 million investment in Madera Community Hospital. Even though it's called that, it's really hospital closure impacts. We haven't amended the names of the programs yet, but it's all kind of in that bucket.
Okay, thank you so much for all this. I really do appreciate it.
Okay, any comment from the public on this item?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I'd just like to support something that Joel mentioned in terms of small business applications. I serve in the EDC board, and I know that they have made incessant efforts to reach out to the small business community in many different ways. And there are certain, if you've had certain funding from other programs, some people are not eligible. There's some people who inquired but never brought the necessary financials to process a loan application. So it's been extreme and extensive as far as the outreach to the small business community. Thank you.
Any public comment? Anyone online?
None online.
Okay, bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure? I would say that I will receive a motion. If you'd like to make a motion that we form this committee, if you'd like to establish the deadlines as stated by staff, that can all be done in a single motion, if you'd like to do that.
I would like to make a motion that we establish an ARPA committee and that we use a recommended timeline by staff for the deadline for the programs you outlined. And I think that's about it.
Good. Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and second. Let's vote.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay,
Thank you,
so as chair, protocol demands me to appoint those committees and then the board can approve. Is that correct? Or can I just, it's just an adjunct committee, so. I think I'm just going to go with an executive decision here and appoint Supervisor Wamhoff and Supervisor Poitras. They can bring back their recommendations to the, with Joel Begay, CAO, and you have one other person involved in this, Jessica? She'd be a good input as well. So there we go. That'll be the committee. They're going to bring back recommendations to us and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Sometimes you just got to make a decision, right?
That's a good thing.
Yes, it is. All right. 6D.
6D, County Administration Department, discussion and consideration of entering into an agreement with Eastern Madera Fire Save Council in the amount of $75,000 for a grant to promote work related to wildfire mitigation and risk reduction activities in Eastern Madera County and authorize the chairman to sign.
Good morning, Darren McCandless, County Administrative Office. This item before you this morning seeks approval of a grant agreement in the amount of $75,000 to the Eastern Madera County Fire Safe Council in order to satisfy a matching requirement for a federal grant from the National Forest Service through the Coalitions and Collaboratives Action Implementation and Mitigation Program, also known as a COCO AIM grant. The focus of this grant is fuel reduction projects, and the Fire Safe Council aims to use these funds to work in conjunction with other agencies, including County OES, CAL FIRE, to provide funding to design coordinated projects to mitigate the threat of wildfire in Eastern Madera County. The county and the Fire Safe Council have worked previously on a California Fire Safe Council evacuation grant, and considered the possibility of utilizing that grant to satisfy this matching requirement. However, that would have limited the COCO AIM grant funds to a single project. The $75,000 county match would allow for funds to be used toward multiple projects that can be phased in over several years. I believe Brian McNamara, Director of Eastern Madera County Fire Safe Council, is joining us online, and we are available for any questions.
Questions for Darren? Any comment from the public? Anyone online?
Nobody online.
I'll bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Motion made.
I'll second.
Motion made in second. Let's vote.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Supervisor Fortress,
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6E.
6E, Fire Department, discussion and consideration of entering into a state agreement with California Department of Forestry, and Fire Protection in the amount of $13,140,521 for fire services and operations for fiscal year 2023, 2024, and authorize the chairman to sign.
Got our fine chief before us here.
Good morning,
Good to
Mr.
have you.
Chairman.
Thank you.
Members of the board. Justin McComb, Assistant Chief, overseeing Madera County Fire Department. The county's been in agreement with the state since 1928, so it's one of the longest running agreements. I think it's the longest running agreement
It is
ever.
the longest in the
Yeah.
state of California.
Yeah, so what this is it funds 7 full-time fire stations. And in total, we have 51 firefighters. Up to last year, we brought every station is up to 2 staffing, which is 2 bodies on each engine. Station 1 is on the south side of town off of Tozier. Station 3 is in Madera Acres, which will be the newest station that'll be completed in mid-August. Station 7 is at Tesoro Viejo. Station 9 is at Rolling Hills. Station 12 is in Oakhurst, and Station 19 is the Bonadeli Rancho station. And the final station is Station 8 Chuck Chansey. So this agreement is for those 7 total staff stations. And I'm open to any questions you may have.
Yeah, I was just, it's important that people understand that the apparatus involved here is much, much more than the physical that you see, the stations, and the bodies. The total apparatus is what CAL FIRE brings to the table in their communications and operations that are even outside of Madera County. I went up and toured the Mariposa facility back when many years ago, and kind of gained an understanding that there's no way that we could afford all that we have at our fingertips in this contract. So it's a very important apparatus that we are gaining in addition to the very important bodies and the stations that we operate in Madera County. I think we've done extremely well over these last few years, really bringing that into a status that's very functional, and you're a big part of that. What you do.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with you. When I first started many years ago, there was a lot of our stations that were 1-0 staffed. You had 1 person on a fire engine. And now, if you look back to where we are currently, 2-0 may seem like it's minor or minimum staffing, but it's a lot to us in the county who came up working by themselves on an engine. So
right
across the board, to have 2-0 staffing is huge for us.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of other built-in, things that come with the agreement. Like you said, the dispatching center that we have is state of the art in Mariposa. We have fire investigators that we can call from CAL FIRE, our own law enforcement officers. The bargaining is taken care of with CAL FIRE. The county doesn't have to worry about any of that, but yeah. But I want to just thank you for the support.
You bet. Absolutely.
I'd like to say something before I vote yes on this contract. The value that the county gets out of this contract is tremendous. The amount of resources that we get out of this contract on a per dollar basis is unreal. And so I'm just so happy that that you guys are here, and this is such a valuable contract. There's a lot of counties or municipalities that think like, hey, we can do this better ourselves. We want our own fire department. The amount of money and liability and all the other things that come along with it are astronomical, all the way down to the 72-hour work week versus the 56-hour work week. That alone, saves a tremendous amount of money. And so we're just so thankful that we have the oldest CAL FIRE contract in the state, I guess, right?
Yeah, the experience of the personnel. I mean, that you can't buy that. You can't recruit that. That is just absolutely, it's like you said, invaluable. The value's there. I'm so pleased.
And a lot of it is, I'll call it homegrown talent. If you look at in Supervisor McCauley's district, Sean Fairbanks is a graduate of Yosemite High School. Very, very experienced battalion chief up there. Our operations chief, Chris Trinidad, who's behind me, was a battalion chief in Madera County Fire. Now he's running our unit, so to speak. I live in the Ranchos. We have Chief Overbay that's oversees, Madera Valley. He's a local homegrown. Chris Renault, same thing, another battalion chief that's homegrown, but all of our firefighters are somewhat local, which is a strong suit for them knowing the areas and just having that pride and community involvement.
Yeah, I was
went
walking
to high school with Chief Johnson as well. So the new battalion chief up there. So, and I apologize for
Yeah, no, go ahead.
interrupting, Chief. I just wanted to jump in real quick and throw my 2 cents in. Not only do we have huge value in what we're doing with CAL FIRE, you guys done a tremendous job. Old Supervisor Wheeler likes to say it since 1926, not since 1928. We'll let that debate continue on. But I did want to thank the board for their commitment to public safety. As someone, who is impacted by the effects of wildfire, I woke up smelling smoke this morning and my hair was on end. I just want to thank you guys for your commitment to CAL FIRE and public safety. So thank you.
They've also had a big impact on our efforts for fire safety and all of that. Just contribution goes on and on and on. Just really great. So anyway, I'll stop pontificating on that. Any comments from the public on this item? Anyone online?
Nobody online?
Bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure?
Do we get the 100th year free since we have the building?
Hey, we had to celebrate.
That's the money person I figured I better ask. I know the answer.
I'll move for approval. Second. Motion made and second. Let's vote.
Supervisor Poitras.
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley.
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh.
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you, sir. Love your first name. That's my son's name. Means the just one. Very good name.
I love Bobby's first name.
Robert, it's a good one.
6F.
6F, Human Resources Department, introduction of an ordinance of the Board of Supervisors of Madera County, amending chapter 2.60.580 of Title II of the Madera County Code relating to vacation leave, set for proposed adoption on July 11th, 2023.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Roman Noriega, Human Resources. The item before you is a cleanup item to align the vacation leave language outlined in our county code with our MOUs that cover all of our represented employees and the salary and benefits resolution that covers our unrepresented employees. If approved, the ordinance will return to the board on July 11th for proposed adoption.
Any comment from the public? Now I'll bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and second. Let's vote.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras.
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
The vote passes 5-0.
6G.
6G, Human Resources Department, discussion and consideration to adopt the side letters of agreement with the Correctional Officer Bargaining Units regarding shift changes.
Morning again, Roman Noriega, Human Resources. As you know, there's an operational need in the jail to move to 12-hour shifts due to budgetary constraints and overtime issues. The side letter in the packet outlines the agreement reached between the county and the Correctional Officer Bargaining Unit and is now before you for ratification. Following the board's approval, it's the intent of the Sheriff's Office to move to 12-hour work shifts for its jail operations effective July 15th, 2023. And I have the sheriff here to answer any operational questions you might have.
Any questions?
I have a question. When was the original, was that the original date that they were anticipating going to the 12s? July 15th?
Yeah, in terms of bargaining that, I believe that was the original date.
Any comment from the public on this item? Now to bring it back to the board.
Move to approve.
Motion made.
Second?
Motion made and second. Let's vote.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6H.
6H, Human Resources Department, discussion and consideration of approval for the transfer of appropriations number 22-223 in the amount of $235,765. Transfers from self-insurance, dental liability appropriations for contingencies to general insurance and professional and specialized services for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Thank you. Good morning,
Morning.
Chairman, members of the board. Michelle May with Human Resources. It's been a while since I've been here, so nice to see all of you. So this particular item is a request to move funds within the existing self-insured dental fund from appropriations that are already budgeted over to the two funds within that budget that pay for our emeritus dental claims and then also our Delta Care. So we have two different items, and a majority of our employees, as you can see by the funding amount, are in the emeritus dental plan. So we had this year, actually since end of March through about mid-May so far, we had an unusually high number of claims that came in. One was over $94,000. We get these claims per week. Yes, very unusual, very, very high. Have not seen it before, but we also had some additional high claim weeks as well. So yes, I had the same look when I saw that. So what happens a lot of times in these claims, because we have our employees and their dependents who use services, and they may use services for a various dental services. We had an unusually high number of claims that were actually employees that actually went for services. Plus we had some very high dollar services, orthodontia, some others that are just incredibly high. So we got hit a little harder than we expected.
Are those claims managed by someone who understands claims very well, or they are risk management, or?
We do have, so we do work with risk management on our funds, but we also have, we do have the emeritus and then the Delta the claims administrators that do those. Yes.
They
So they-
evaluate the claims, and
Yes.
is there a new dentist in town who has gold-plated tools, or?
So the benefits are set based on what the county negotiates with the vendors, but there are occasions where we do have a high volume of claims. Again, this has been an unusually a high year since I have been here for about 10 years.
Seems like you'd be replacing all the teeth for that much money.
Right.
Michelle, and do
Yes.
we have a benefits maximum for these policies? I would assume that would help us control some of those costs.
Yes, it does. And actually, I'm glad you brought that up. We're actually looking at our dental and our vision plans right now, evaluating, since CalPERS is also going to be presenting their costs for premiums for next year and the plans. So timing is perfect. We're looking at the entire program.
So there's a possibility we could be going away from the self-insured plan and doing something through them, or because I was curious, know, when I was looking at the numbers, the budget, I didn't want to ask too many questions on insurance, but what is the average cost for our employees as far as the dental insurance goes? I mean, do we have a good feel for that? I mean, because I know
Yeah.
from a group plan, we can get it for like $250 through Delta. I mean, it's not great coverage, but it's
The dental and vision plans are typically the most inexpensive, obviously. We have not actually changed our benefit structure in either of those programs for many years. So we have essentially the same benefit level. CalPERS, they have some other plans available, but the county has chosen to self-fund for many years, long before my tenure here. But we can certainly look at whether we do something differently in the future.
yeah, I personally would love to see, know that what we're charging our employees.
Yeah.
A good benefit.
Yeah. The premiums that we actually charge the employees are very, very reasonable. And we just increased them about 3% for this calendar or plan year, which is January through December. Prior to that, we had not actually changed our premiums in over 10 years. So very stable so far, except for this unusual.
We have another
Last couple
insurance expert in the room back there. She's smiling.
But actually, from a self-insured standpoint, especially for these ancillary benefits, it's a cost saver to have those with the county if those benefit limits are in place, and we have a good mechanism to pay out claims and administer the claims, correct?
Right.
Okay, any public comment on this item?
None
Anyone online?
online.
Okay. Bring it back to the board.
Move to approve.
Been made. Second, let's vote.
Supervisor Wamhaugh.
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley.
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras.
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6I.
6I, Public Works Department Administrative Service Division, discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution approving a cash flow loan for MD1 Fund 1520 in the amount of $300,000.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Andrea Saldati, Deputy Director with Public Works. Before you today is a cash flow loan for $300,000. We currently do have a loan out for $1 million from the general fund that we are needing to repay by the end of the fiscal year. We do have a claim out to the state for reimbursable expenses for this project. This project is the water tank, the water storage tank in MD1. In July of 22, it did break. We washed out a road. It was a major emergency. And so we took out an immediate loan from the general fund because at that point in time, we did not have a funding agreement. Now that we have a funding agreement, we have sent in a claim to the state for roughly $300,000. This is an interim cash flow loan until we do receive that reimbursement check back from the state, and then we would replace this money back into the DIGS trust fund.
Yeah, there's also a program through RCRC on cash flow loans on grants like that.
Yes, we have looked into it. Yes.
Yeah, keep that in mind as well. Okay, any public comment on this item?
None online.
Pleasure, board.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Let's vote. I thought I
Supervisor
heard a second.
Supervisor Wamhaugh.
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras.
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley.
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6J.
6J, Board of Directors, Special Districts, Maintenance District Number 1, Hidden Lakes, Treasurer Tax Collector Department, discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of the 2023 Series Grant and Anticipation Note not to exceed the principal amount of $750,000 to provide short-term cash advances for Maintenance District Number 1, Hidden Lakes.
Oh, is it my turn already? Anyway, Tracy Kennedy, your County Treasurer Tax Collector. What I'm here to explain is our Grant Anticipation Note program. I started this several years ago, wherein what we could do is purchase debt. Okay, so the county treasurer, we cannot lend money, but we can buy debt. Okay, so These funding agreements that Andrea was just talking about are through the state of California as a rule. And that gives us a revenue stream that we can depend on. And therefore, the special district can say, I need, I have a project for $3 million. And we have a funding agreement through the state of California. And once that funding agreement comes in, that means we know that we have a resource. We have our revenue stream. And so then we're able to come to you like we do every single time with a note. And if you look in your paperwork, your resolution, it includes a note payable, right? Series grant anticipation note, and we have a date and we have an amount. And in that, it talks about how much the interest rate will be, how long the term will be, and that. And so, and for every single grant anticipation note that we do, we have to come before the board because you guys are the board of directors, right? So you are the board of directors for these special districts. And so then you have to allow this to go through, which means your district is issuing debt. So then once you issue debt, once this goes through the board here, then we have the authority then to actually write a check, which we do. We still have the ability to write a check, we give it to the special districts, and then they run it through the accounting system. Okay. So because it's an investment, then this investment is then placed on our investment portfolio. So you get a copy of the Madera County portfolio every month, and you'll go and you can scroll down and you can see that it'll say grant anticipation notes, and it'll have whatever grant anticipation notes might be still outstanding at that time. Over the years, we've done grant anticipation notes for Hidden Lakes, Eastern Arcola, Miami Creek Knolls, Hidden Lakes again, Parkwood, Fairmead, Indian Lakes, and Parkwood, you know, the typical districts that that need help in funding their different projects. Right now, we have outstanding Indian Lakes, Ranchos, Ripperden, Eastern Arcola, Hidden Lakes, Parkwood, Valita, and today are two more. One is Madera Ranchos, where you know where that is, Supervisor, and one is Hidden Lakes, which is up there by Millerton, which is what Andrea Saldati was just talking about. So what the difference is from what Andrea was talking about, her cash flow borrowing is from the Department of Engineering and General Services. That's a trust fund that the county has, and they borrow money from it from time to time. And in this particular case for Hidden Lakes, it's over 5 years. We will not go that far, that long of a term. And typically the funding agreements that we are reading, they pay within 2 or 3 years. So it's low risk. It's really no risk. It's backed by the special district, and you know who backs special districts? General fund. But anyway, it's the ability to make sure that they're able to do their projects. And it's, like I said, it's all funded. It's funded through usually this California State Water Resources Control Board. I think that's the right vernacular. We get a copy of all the funding agreement. We keep in the office so that we also read it to make sure that we're not lending more than we are allowed or buying more than we can. And then also we send them invoices so that they can pay. What they pay is the pooled rate plus 50 basis points, 65 basis points. Which the pool rate right now, the overall pool rate is kind of low, unfortunately. But rates are rising, so that'll rise too, right? So, and then we send invoices to the special districts, letting them know that there's a payment coming up so that they can go ahead and get that in the process. It takes a little while to process. So the interest rate is still very low, and it's essentially quick funding for the district. Like I said, I believe in it. We just recently redid our policy and just kind of try to tighten it up a little bit so that everybody understood. It was very clear where everybody stood. And anyway, it's something that I do believe in. I have believed in. I think if we can invest in our local districts, we should do so. The amounts are never too big, which there's one here for $3 million, but that's still not that big for the pool. If you look on our portfolio, we're around 900 million right now. And so we have to keep probably 20 or 30 million in our checkbook, just to make sure that we have enough for cash flow. Don't forget, the schools also are mandatory depositors, so we have to make sure that we can cover their payroll, their commercial accounts, any expenses that they may have. Also make sure that in case they, there's a new school going out. What is it? The Hussein or something? So anyway, the bond proceeds are also resting in the county treasury. And then when those improvements start, then we will transfer money to those contractors. But anyway, so in the last 6 years, we've done over $10 million worth of grant anticipation notes for the special districts. And if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Tracy, I have one question. Is this available to other jurisdictions, the cities, the school districts, where you can provide like this short-term?
Yes,
Like,
yes, the school districts are, by statute, they are. And anything that has a revenue stream, okay, a funding agreement that the county holds the funds for. So, I mean, if it was a city sewer plant, we don't hold their funds, we're not related to that at all. So we would not be able to do that. So it would only be the things that we have the oversight for at our level, at the county level.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any public comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure?
I'll move to approve.
Move to approve, second.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. Let's vote.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras.
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
6K.
Thank you.
6K, Board of Directors,
Same
Special
thing.
Districts, Maintenance District 10, Madera Ranchos. Treasurer Tax Collector Department, discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of a 2023 series grant anticipation note not to exceed the principal amount of $3 million to provide short-term cash advance for Maintenance District 10, Madera Ranchos.
Any public comment on this item?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, Matt Treber, Chief of Development Services. No, I wanted to take the time and an opportunity to thank Tracy and her shop for the assistance on these. They are extremely warranted and needed and have provided, the funds for build out and development of these. So this one in particular is a almost $17 million funding agreement we've gotten from the state for MD10, and this $3 million is that cash flow mechanism as we wait those 4 to 6 months to get reimbursement from the state. So just wanted to take a minute and thank Tracy and her shop for the assistance.
Any other public comment?
Did she make you say that?
Not today.
Anyone online?
None online.
I'll bring it back to the board.
Move for approval.
Second.
Made in second. Let's vote.
Supervisor Poitras.
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley.
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay.
Thank you for your words, Kanye Treber, by the way, stealing the microphone.
Pending legislation. I know we have a couple items.
The only one that's seeming to make its way through the committees, it's actually into committees right now, is SB 525, which is the $25 an hour minimum wage for anybody who works in a healthcare facility. So
Okay.
I think we've already forwarded at least one letter of opposition to that, but it seems to be continuing. There is allegedly some opposition waiting to be heard from on that.
We have any other pending legislation that we wanted to hear at this time? You're gonna bring some items to us? Good morning. It's fine.
Hello, Chairman and the board. My name is Joshua Babcock. I'm the field representative for Congressman John Duarte's office. The bills that I have given you are the Supply Chain Improvement Act and the Water Infrastructure Modernization Act. Some further details on these bills. The Supply Chain Improvement Act would direct the Department of Transportation to prioritize grant proposals submitted under the RAISE, Infira, and MEGA grant programs as a function of the supply chain expansion and alleviation. Grant program details. MEGA supports large, complex projects that are difficult to fund by other means and likely to generate national, regional, economic, mobility, or safety benefits. RAISE helps communities to build transportation projects that have significant local or regional impact and improve safety and equity. Infira awards competitive grants for multimodal freight and highway projects of national or regional significance to improve the safety, efficiency, and reliability of the movement of freight and people in and across rural and urban areas. The Water and Infrastructure Modernization Act, co-led with Representative Gallego, who is the primary bill sponsor. This bill would create new competitive grant programs for the use and implementation of cutting-edge water technology in the wastewater and drinking water sectors. The non-exhaustive lists in the bill include real-time leak detection, data integration devices, advanced metering infrastructure, groundwater banking technologies, and more. There is also 25% set aside for rural communities and 10% set aside for tribes. Thank you.
Very much. We don't have these on the agenda. We could probably just give a thumbs up if the board would like to support these items, or we can put them on the agenda for a later formal approval. What is your pleasure, board?
If the board needs to wait till later, that's perfectly fine.
Any public comment on this item?
None
What's your
online.
pleasure, board?
Well, I would rely on some kind of an opinion from legal, but I would, I mean, I think
Probably
these are both
agendize them for later
Yeah.
on for a
Right.
formal approval.
perhaps
And
the
that,
11.
what we'll do is we'll have a board letter. If we approve it, I'll sign it, and it'll be the collective board's backing.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and the board for your time today.
Thank you, Joshua. Appreciate it, and thank our congressman for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'll see him on the 28th. We're having a water symposium in the area, and that'll be a nice deal, and there'll be a lot of people attending that. Okay, any supervisors and staff reports? Bobby?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Had a little cleanup event out at Bass Lake yesterday. So a bunch of volunteers along with staff from Madco was able to join me and just kind of clean up some trash around the lake, where we found actually a new boat and a new travel trailer. So we're ready for vacation.
Wow.
Well, I guess a new used boat, a new
okay.
used travel trailer, probably a better way to put it.
Very good. Supervisor Poitras.
I have nothing to report.
Attended a nice tour of a recharge facility yesterday out in my district, and Supervisor Gonzalez was also there, and her chief of staff, my chief of staff. And it's just really great to see farmers taking initiative to do what needs to be done to recharge groundwater. Some 6 miles of canals, various recharge basins and pumping stations. They're applying for by right access to the bypass. During times like this with the flood waters flowing, absolutely incredible opportunity to recharge about 10,000 acre feet a year. So it's from just that project. This project, if the county had done this project, would cost between $5 and $10 million. They're doing it themselves. A lot of dollars at risk there, and in the hopes that they get the credit that they deserve for the project and in their water use. Anyway, I'll pass it on to Supervisor Wamhoff.
So nothing to report over the last week. However, I am having a town hall. It's going to be on Tuesday, the 27th at Riverstone Lodge at 6 p.m. So I encourage, it's not just for Riverstone folks, but I anticipate probably more Riverstone residents will be there. We'll be answering a lot of questions related to water, trash, roads, public safety, and the like. So I would
Good.
encourage anyone to come out to Riverstone Lodge Tuesday, the 27th at 6 p.m. We may or may not have tacos.
Haha. May or may not have. Supervisor Gonzalez.
Thank you. On yesterday, I attended the 3rd annual Juneteenth celebration hosted by the city of Madera and the Black Saints United group of Madera. It was a really nice event, and they honored Barbara Nelson for her work in the Fairmead community and Madera County all around. So it was very well attended, great event. I want to thank the committee that put that together. And since we're not meeting for a while, I just wanted to announce that on June 23rd, which is on a Friday, Senator Caballero and I will be hosting a webinar on how to get appointed to a governor's appointment. So the process of how to apply, what to do, where to go and whatnot. So that we'll share that information online. And then if you're not doing anything on 4th of July, the Greater Madera Kiwanis is hosting the 4th of July fireworks show. It's free to the public. They're working in collaboration with the Madera County Fairgrounds. And so it'd be a nice event for families to go out and enjoy the fireworks. Hopefully we don't have too many illegal fireworks. It's always a tough day for me and my Bruno.
Yeah.
The tough day on our pets. So just be mindful of those who have PTSD and pet owners. It's a rough day. So that's it. Thank you.
Sure. CAO,
Nothing to report. Thank you.
County Council, thank you for being here today, our substitute county council.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And clerk of the board.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll be adjourned.